I'm Nigel James Pope. I'm 63, born on the 1st of October 1960, and I come from a little village in Cornwall called Penwithwick, little tiny village, not far from St Austell and the now renowned Eden Project. It's about a mile from the Eden Project. So that's where I'm from, and I was born at home. I'm the oldest of five, and they don't normally have the first child born at home, but in this case, the midwife came around, and I was actually born in what was my granddad's house then, because we were, mum and dad couldn't afford to have their own place, so we were living with my granddad at the time. Well, the village where I lived, it was a little local village where everybody knew everybody. It had their own local bobby as such, a local policeman, and it was a great time. We used to play around as kids, as you do. We used to, just basically use the whole village as our playground. It was an amazing place. We had a plantation with bamboos. We used to go play hide and seek and everything. And of course, we had like a cliff face as well with a long, tall rope that we used to jump on and swing off and swing out. And a few of us ended up at the bottom a bit quicker than we should have done. A bit of fun. A few broken bones occasionally, but yeah, it was a fun time. I enjoyed the little village, living in the village life. The village probably only maybe 1,000 people, if that. Might not be even that many. It was a very small village, but it was just near St Austell, which is a larger town, a bigger town, and not far from Truro, which is the city of Cornwall. When I was growing up, we had loads of friends. We were all sort of, I've always been a people person, so I've always been friends with everybody, even sometimes with my enemies, because that's how I am. I don't like having enemies. I don't like being upset with anybody. I don't like anybody being upset with me, and that's the way I've seemed to have lived my life. I hate upsetting anyone, so I would sooner upset myself than upset somebody else. That's me, and I think that's come out through, and a lot of people realise that. School, I enjoyed school.
Where was it?
It was just we used to have to walk to school before they came in with school buses, but it's one of those old stories where you get the violin out. I had to walk 10 miles to school, but it was only actually about 3/4 of a mile to walk to the school.
What was the name of your school?
It was Treverben CP. Well, it was the primary, and yeah, I remember some great times in there. We used to have fancy dress parades there, even, so maybe I was meant to come to Benidorm, where you have the largest, fancy dress party in Europe. But yeah, I remember playing the recorder or trying to murder a few songs with the recorder. I remember the headmaster, Mr. Bonetto, Freddie Bonetto, and I used to always, I was always I like to make people laugh. I was always like the comedian in class, and quite often I'd end up having to stand in the corner, and when I was told off. But that's me. I tried a joke, so trying to make people laugh, and it seems that I started that from a very young age, because the school reports, I've still got some, and on the school report it says Nigel could always do better if he wasn't trying to be the comedian of the class, so. Yep, well, we had to move then into St Austell, which from a little small, there was half a dozen classes, I think, in the school, little school, to a school which had over 1,000 people in it. But of course, it was an opportunity for me to make new friends and different friends. We all got sort of separated up into different classes, different levels. But we all ended up together at some point or another, and yeah, I made some really good friends there as well. Who I'm still friends with today. In fact, one came over just a couple of weeks ago. I haven't seen him since I left school, and it was great to meet up with him again. And he's looking to come out and see us again.
What, from someone that you knew from secondary school?
Yes, yeah. Others I'm still friends with. Where they were back in the summer, and we actually ended up going on our very first holiday abroad, which is where I decided I wanted to live in a country with lots of sunshine.
So you come to Spain.
Yes, that's right. Well, it was Mallorca, our very first holiday. That was with 5 other lads from work, and we had a fantastic time, as you can imagine. Five guys, all good-looking guys as well. Out till early hours, coming home when the sun was coming up. And
Good old days.
the good old days, yeah. But it was that at that point that I decided I wanted to live in a hot country. In school, fishing, really. I took up fishing.
Fishing.
Yeah, we used to go off fishing quite a lot in the local ponds because I lived in the China Clay area, and there's lots of old China Clay pits that were just left desolate, and there happened to be some fish in them as well. And yeah, we used to spend most of our time fishing, really, our spare time.
No sports or nothing?
I started to get into football, but I broke my ankle quite early on a accident on a roundabout that had some of the wood, taken out. And I was pushing my foot down, pushing the roundabout around where the bits of wood were, and the roundabout, I left my foot there a bit too long, and it came over and it cut my Achilles tendon. And it got sewn back together, but it was lots of strong. So whenever I kicked the football, and that was my right foot, it hurt. So of course football was out then, and I used to do well at javelin. I used to be good at target sports and throwing things, discus, the javelin. But I was a little bit chubby back in those days, but I did manage to try and do as much as I could. I was very keen in having a go at everything. I'd always I'd never sway away from anything. I remember at school in the secondary, it was a county primary, and we were doing the sports. I'd already entered for the javelin and the discus because that's things that I was good at, and they needed someone to go in the 1,500 meters. And that's me being me. I said, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it, just because I'll have a go. And it was 3 courses around the racetrack. And I think everybody else finished while I still had 1 lap to go. And it was amazing because I wouldn't give up. I carried on going, and I was last, and I was way last. But when I got over that finishing line, I had the biggest roar from the crowd than anybody else did, because they were all pleased, and give me the support, for doing it, And I even ended up with a certificate at the end of the year for the best effort award. I got certificates because I won the discus, and I did win the javelin as well. But I also got an extra special award that they made because of the effort they saw that I put in. So, that was, I'm quite proud of that one. First ever job, yes, selling ice cream on Par Beach.
Got like an ice cream store.
I was working for Kelly's Ice Cream, and we used to go off down to the beach. We used to meet up at Kelly's, the depot, and we used to get assigned different places. I quite often got assigned Par Beach, and I'd spend the day. There'd be like 6 vans because the beach was quite a long beach, and there'd be 6 vans, and I'd be in one of those vans for 8 hours or so. We used to get a dinner break. We used to get someone come along and take over for an hour. But at 15, while I was still at school, that was my first job in the summer, and I enjoyed that much. I ended up working on school weekends, and I was going out with the van drivers, going out to different places, going around the local area. And because I knew, I've always had a good, we used to go off push biking everywhere, and all the villages and everywhere, and I sort of knew all the right places. And of course, going around with the van driver, when it got near where someone I knew, places I knew, I used to get them to go to places where I knew we would sell ice cream. And we became quite good. A lot of places would stay away from certain areas because, a certain group of people would live there. But we found that if you went there, they seemed to have more money than most others. And instead of buying an odd ice cream each, they would buy the tubs, so we'd sell the tubs as well, you know.
Spend more money.
But yeah, so you know, that was my first job, and I did that for a couple of years. And because I always like to have things, and my dad always said, you know, if you want something, you've got to pay for it. So, and you've got to earn the money. So that was what I did. And I enjoyed doing that. I had a group of good friends that were doing it as well. And like I said, I'm the type of person who gets on well with everyone. So I ended up, you know, staying there for a couple of years before I left school. And well, at that time, there was not a lot of work around, unfortunately. Couldn't drive at that point, so there was no point in me trying to work full time in the, you know, selling ice cream, because you know, they didn't want anybody just to be full time just doing that. So I ended up going on what they called a government training scheme with a builder for 6 months, and it was a government training scheme that they pulled out to, you know, make sure that you got paid. You know, the builder didn't actually pay me as such, but you know, I got paid by the government, and it was a training scheme to train me up in the building industry, basically.
So, what, like brickwork and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I was his helper, really. You know, I learned how to, you know, to actually do a lot of masonry and everything. You know, because in those 6 months we did cover a lot. We did a plastering as well, and a little bit of electrical work at the same time. So it was quite an interesting start, which actually came in very handy for when, you know, I moved to my later time in France, because and when I started buying houses, you know, and I moved a few times, so always some repair works and always something to do in the different houses that we lived in. So it came in handy for then. So, well, I'd actually got, after 3 years of trying, I got into working for the China Clay Company, which is who my dad worked for, and they were the best salary payers, you know, going. So I ended up 5 years in a machine shop. I was actually working on a 8-foot radial drill, you know, drilling and tapping, all sorts of things. Semi-skilled in that one. And I eventually moved out to the pits, washing the clay, and I was out, yeah, on monitor hoses, washing it with 6-inch monitors, you know, washing the clay out of the rocks, because kaolin, China clay, is actually decomposed granite, and there's lots of granite in Cornwall, as you know. But it's decomposed granite. That's where the clay is, and of course the sand is what makes up the mix with the clay.
Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I
Is it a
did.
messy job? You just get dirty?
Yeah, quite often. Yeah, we had work clothes, you know, so it didn't matter. But it was a great, you know, you were working with 6, 7 other guys, and they were all a good laugh. Again, you know, I was lucky to have a group to be working with, and it was all sorts of shifts. We were working, you know, in the afternoons. We were working at night. It was a 24-hour shift pattern of 8 hours a day, and yeah, it was. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Again, you know, it was good money as well. So at 18, I was, you know, because of that good job, I went from one job from the machine shop to the pits, and that was shift work, and it was such a big pay rise. I thought, I've got to do something with this money or else I'll waste it. So I got a mortgage, bought my first house at 18. So at the young age of 18, after changing my job and earning all this extra money, I thought, I've got to do something with it. So I took a mortgage out, bought my first house, cost me £17,500. 3-bedroom, it was in a terrace of 4, and it was one of the middle ones. Had a nice garden at the back. We could reach it via the road round the back. It was an old railway line at the end, so there was, you know, we were sort of using that as the roadway to get to a little area for parking. We could also park on the main road. It was so quiet. And that was a village of Stenelees where I lived, in another quiet village. It was where we didn't even bother to lock our doors. In fact, I had a friend call round one day. My neighbour said, "Oh, your friend called round, said was looking for you. Your front door was open, went in, couldn't find you." And they came in and asked where I was. And they said, "Oh, Nigel's gone into town, get some shopping." He said, "Yeah, but the house is unlocked." I said, "Well, You know, that's how it is around here. It's safe. You know, that's how it used to be. You know, and actually our neighbour was quite nosy, so I knew that nobody would get past our eyes anyway. So it was like having an early warning security camera back in those days. But no, that's how it was back in those days, and it was really great. So I had my first three-bedroom house at 18 years old,
How
and
long
that
was you
was.
there for?
I was there for about. It's funny because I was there for about 3 years in total, and I got with I managed. I say managed. I after my second trip abroad, I came back flashing my suntan at the local the Cornwall Coliseum. They had a new discotheque opening up, and it was called Beelzebub, the Devil of a Disco. I remember that, the first opening night, and I just got back from Mallorca, 2 weeks with a lovely tan, long blonde hair back then, and of course met this young lady who was actually a bit older than me for the first time. Had a few dances, and like I said, I ended up. She lived in a little village a bit further away in Sablazy. I met her, and we got together. Um, and after about 18 months to 2 years of being together, we decided to get married, and we sold both our houses and put one between us, and that was our first. Like I said, using all my skills that I'd learnt from the building. I was doing up the houses. We always bought somewhere that needed a bit of work because they were always cheaper. That was the road onwards then. I was with my first wife for 32 and a half years in total. During that time, we moved 14 times, I think. Each time upgrading to a bigger and better place, and each time using the spare money to change the car, change the caravan, because we got into caravan and we used to go to France every year because Cornwall gets so busy in the summer that you can't move. So it was easier for me to save all my holidays and just go to Europe for 3 months. 3 weeks, 3 months. I'd like to go on for 3 months, but yeah. So I used to save up all my holidays and have 3 weeks off, and we'd pass everybody coming into Cornwall. The queues on the M5 and everything it was crazy. And we'd go to France, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Italy. I've seen a lot of Europe, and I've seen it, close at hand. It's been that was amazing time. And it was this, again, it was the start of me. We sort of thought, well, every time we went to France, we thought, we loved it here. The weather was so much better. And I thought, well, yeah, France is a good alternative, because my wife at the time, she wasn't keen on the heat of this down in Spain. So, because I always fancied being in Spain, obviously, but so we ended up looking around one year. We sold our big house and downsized to a little small place. And instead of paying the mortgage off, we decided to use that money to buy a holiday home in France. So we looked around. We started off in the south of France, and we found a nice little flat, for the money that we could afford, right down on the coast on the Mediterranean. But it didn't have anywhere for a barbecue. We love our barbecues. So we moved a bit further back inland in France, near the Tarn Gorge. We had a look around there. We found a place that was just a little bit out of our range, but it almost suited, and we sort of thought about it, and we thought, no, we don't want to overstretch. So we ended up coming a bit further back up in France to Limoges, just before Limoges. And for some reason, we went off to the right of underneath sort of Limoges, and we were there. We found a nice little campsite, a 5-van campsite, which was British run, actually. Somebody from England, and it was in where there was lakes and trees, and we were there, and we said to the owner, we said, oh, it's a little bit misty and wet and dreary here. We thought that France had lots more sunshine in this part. And she said, well, yeah, we're in a damp area. you know, this is a damp area. She said, you go 20 miles the other side of the Moge and it's a completely different area. So we said to my wife, I said, right, let's go. So we ended up going to St. Junien, which is just a little bit further along, stayed in a campsite there, had a look around, and this was all within our 3 week stay. We were getting near to the end and we thought we're going to have to come back again next year and have a look because we're not going to get time to come back. So we ended up, anyway, you always say it's the last place, and it really was the last place that we were going to look at. There was nowhere else, you know, no other. We always used to go around. We had the paperwork, find the place, no, throw it out. And this last one was a tiny little 1-bedroom bungalow with a cellar underneath and a massive great big garden. And we saw it, and it was the right price. It was just on the edge of the village, right on near where the mayor lived, actually in the same road. So, and we thought, wow, it was such a steal. It was £28,500, you know, and we thought we couldn't let it go. So we decided there it was there. You made an offer, and you had 7 days to change your mind if you wanted. But of course, after the 7 days, we said, yeah, we're definitely going to go for it. That took a process. We said in August, it was the 28th or 29th of August, it was when we decided that we made the deal. And we actually got confirmation on the 6th of December that we could go out and sign for it. And unfortunately, I had a motorbike accident, which I ended up breaking some ribs on my back as well on the way to Padstow. Come off on a bend and wrote my bike off, and nearly wrote me off. But and it was the same. It was funny that it was the same day that the email arrived, you know, to say we could go to France and pay for this. Well, I thought, well, I don't know. I was off work, obviously, so I couldn't wait any longer. We ended up driving down to France on the 26th of January. You know, just a little while after, and I actually drove. I was still, luckily the fracture, you know, in my back, it was what they call a stable fracture. They couldn't bandage me up. They couldn't do anything. So all I did was have really strong painkillers. That was the only thing that I did. I wasn't allowed to lift, push, pull, or anything for 6 weeks. So you know, after 4 weeks, I thought, well, I need to get back to France to pay for this, and sort it out. So I said to work, I said, look, you know, I'm ready to come back. You know, can you put me on light duty? So they gave me a little job in Elvis, just messing about with the printer and everything. So that was a way then for me to get down to France quicker to pay for the house. You know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get that, you know, I didn't want to lose it, sort of thing, you know, because the trouble is there's lots of people getting gazumped in the UK, and it was a time when that sort of thing was happening. And I thought, no, I'm going to risk, I'm going to go back to work. I could have had 2 or 3 months off work with the injury I had, but the thought of buying a house, you know, made me go back to work, forced me back quicker. So, but I thought I got to go back to work before I can book the time off again to go down to France. So we did that anyway, and that was our start of living or being abroad. Because 6 months after we bought the house, the company I worked for, they said they wanted to get rid of 800 people, and they were offering our early retirement and a voluntary service as well. So we and they planned it for 18 months ahead. This was a big thing that they were planning, the big changes. So, you know, I had a word with my wife then, and I said, 18 months, that gives us time. Okay, we can't do our original plan, which was to rent out the house in the UK and move to France. To get the money, we needed to sell the house, get rid of the mortgage, and you know, we'd already got the house in France, so we were then just living off our income, you know, my wife had, and myself, you know, at the time. So we thought 18 months, that gives us time to do all those jobs and plan it and get everything sorted. So of course, 18 months later, we moved to France. And that was December 2007.
Nice.
And we had Christmas with Mum and our partner, and then we left on the 28th, 27th or 28th we left. And
Never been back to the UK since.
not lived in France. No, not lived in the UK since. No, we had
What about work in France?
work in France. I was the place where we stayed, B&B, because we went back, a couple of times to France to sort things out because we had to do a few bits and pieces. There was a B&B that was close by, and they actually owned a carp lake. Well, carp fishing is as I said, was one of my favourite things, and to catch fish. I was used to catching a fish that you could almost hold in one hand. You'd use the two hands just to make it better, and then we moved to France, and they had a carp lake, which you had fish that there's no way you could hold them up in one hand. So it was a case of I'd help them out and do just about anything and everything. Trim the trees, cut the grass, look after around the lake, and then I ended up fishing there myself, obviously for free, thankfully, because it was nearly €300 for a week to fish there, for anyone else. And I ended up knowing where the best spots were, how to catch the fish. I learned from one of the guys who was like a caddy for a golfer. He looks after the people that are on the lake, and he went back to Ireland, and I thought, right, I can do that. So I ended up doing the same as what he did. When new people came to the lake had not fished there before, I would give them advice on what bait to use, where to put the bait and everything, and help people catch some really big fish. So I did that, became a handyman there. We ended up, some other friends, through them, they owned a house nearby that they rented out, which had a lake on it. And I ended up being the caretaker for the house. And my wife was cleaning. When it rented out, we did the changeovers. And I had 11 acres of land. Thankfully, I didn't have to keep all that down. We got the local farmer in to cut the grass, and he took the hay away. But I still had quite a lot. I had a ride-on mower to go around with, a posh one. I had all those still chainsaws for clearing the trees and everything. It was quite a big job. It was. In fact, I was earning more money there than I am now down here in Spain, and doing that. And we actually met up with a couple just a couple of weeks ago. We went to the corner bar for a meal with them. They're here at the moment for a little while, and we still keep in contact. That's the third time we've met them now in Spain since we've been here.
So how many? Did you have any more properties in France? Or was it just the one?
That was just the one property in France. We were there for nearly 8 years, and I spent most of that time, doing the property up. The cellar that underneath it was a mud floor. I dug out 18 inches, good 18 inches, and put it all in buckets, took it out through a window and then into the trailer, and all the earth and that came from the floor actually went over to the carp lake for their road to go around the lake, so it helped them as well. I had 22, 24 trailer loads, quite a big size, and I did it all by hand. I had a Kango to dig it out, but I had to actually shovel it into buckets and take it out through a window that was up this high, and drop the buckets out there, walk around, because it was right at the far end, and then put it in the trailer. So took it quite a while, as you can imagine. But I took it all out, and I was that much below the foundations of the house. You could see that the foundations were there, and after that was there. So I had to then underpin it. A friend showed me what to do. So me and my ex-wife, we did all that ourselves. We underpinned how it was supposed to be. We tanked it out. We put so much concrete in there; it was amazing. And again, the concrete. I had a cement mixer outside by the window, and I made this chute so that we could, and we put the wheelbarrow down underneath, and I was mixing the cement up, and I was pouring it down this chute into the wheelbarrow, and then wheeling it up, and we eventually got it down. We tanked it out. We put plastic down to seal it, so it was all tanked out. I did something that I hadn't really at school. I remember doing some plastering, and I'm plastering it up on the wall, and it's just falling down all the time, and it was rubbish. But I thought, right, have a go. And I plastered the whole walls of the cellar with sealant and everything as well, so that we tanked it right out. I then put false walls up with insulation and that around. I put all the electrics in. I looked on YouTube to see how to do all the electrics so that I could do it properly, because we wanted to, we thought if we ever did sell it again in the future, it would have to be done properly. So I found out how to do it. So yeah, I rewired it. I even put a long cable from the because I thought I might have a computer downstairs one day. So I got one of these 30-meter cables that went from the Wi-Fi box down to there, just in case, to make it easier, rather than using the Wi-Fi. Because I used to make a few computers. I've built a few computers in my time as well. So because I remember buying my first computer from PC World, and it just didn't seem to do what I wanted to do. So someone said about upgrading, so it couldn't be upgraded. So I sold that, and I bought a case, and I bought a motherboard, I bought all the bits that I needed and wanted. And someone else said, "Oh, you can do that for me." So I did that for someone else. I did it for someone else, and I got another mate who came and showed him what to do. And so I got into the way of doing that. And the cellar then became my like workshop for in France, and I was doing a bit of that, on the side as well, helping people out repairing computers. And so
So from Spain, from France, did you go from France to Spain?
I went, yes, after 8 years, well, after 7 years and a bit, my then wife, she decided that for some reason she decided she wanted to be on her own, and made it so. And I said, "So you want me to leave?" And she said, "I don't know." Well, I was like that for nearly 6 to 8 months. I was hanging on. I was then living downstairs. I'd made the downstairs and the cellar into a proper nice bedroom, come diner and everything. And I had a TV and all set up there. So we were basically living together. She was living upstairs, I was living downstairs. We're still living together as such. We were going out for meals with friends still. She was doing all my washing. I was, but we just didn't didn't sleep in the same room, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I was still hoping that she would change her mind, because she was so indecisive. And it got to near end of the year, and I thought, I looked like Grizzly Adams. I grew a beard, I grew my hair, I'd put on weight. I was suffering basically, because I had this indecisive decision from her. So eventually, I thought, right, we had the motorhome, because we used to come down to Spain for the winter, which I forgot to add. We used to come down to Spain in the winter because of the work we were doing. It was like seasonal, so we used to work hard during the summer, and then at Christmas or after Christmas, we'd come down to Spain just wild camping. It was cheaper for us to wild camp in Spain and enjoy the lovely weather than it was to stay back in France. So we'd been doing that 4 years in a row. So I thought, right, I'm off down to Spain for the winter. I said, and I'll see how it goes from there. You make up your mind or whatever. So I came down and stayed with friends in Moraira with the motorhome. Had New Year with them, and things just planned out, and I didn't go back. And I said, right, I'm staying here. This is where I want to be. So then I started to make plans to stay here in Spain.
Did you ever see her again?
Yeah,
Oh, you did.
yeah, yeah. Of course, I went back when we sold the house and everything, and moved. We stayed good friends. We've stayed good friends. She's even now asked me to be executor on her will. I don't need to put that bit in, I suppose, but yeah. So we're still good friends. The first year after I came down here, she actually came down and spent 2 weeks here on holiday, or 3 weeks, and she came on one of my bus trips, because I was working for the blanket factory then, doing the guided tours on the bus trips, and she came on one of them. Yeah, we've always been in contact. We've never really fallen out. We've just grew apart, and that's the way it's been.
So Benidorm.
Benidorm, yes.
Benidorm.
Well, I was living 40 minutes away, and of course, me, I'm the kind of person who likes company. So I was looking for a new lady to replace my ex-wife, and met one or two, and then of course I was on this website, Plenty of Fish. Would you believe? Plenty of Fish. So I went fishing, and I caught Nancy. You know, that's is it amazing, really, because you sort of, I always say things happen for a reason. It was the only time I went on Plenty of Fish, and the first person that I met through Plenty of Fish. And yes, I ended up with not ended up, but I've ended up with Nancy, and best fish I've ever caught. So
For something like fishing.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So, Nancy, did you speak Spanish before you met?
Before I met Nancy, because I'd been down here a few months. I'd got the CDs out. I was listening to. I was jogging then. I was trying to keep fit and jogging and walking. And I had a set of, I had an MP3 player with Michelle Thomas, I think, in it playing away. So I was trying to learn. So I'd sort of got a few basics because I thought, well, if I'm going to be here, I want to learn. Because when I was in France, I did learn, quite a bit of French, and I could get by in French. So I thought, right, so now I got to learn Spanish. So all my French has gone out one ear, and the Spanish has come in now. And of course, when I met Nancy on Plenty of Fish,
A lot of Google Translate.
well, we were using Google Translate to start with. We're talking it, and it sort of added to it because I'd talk into it, and it would say this stuff, and I'd pass it to her, and she'd just laugh her head off. And I think, what's it done? So I'd retranslate what I'd put back into Spanish, and it was nothing like I'd said, and I could see why she was laughing then. Some really funny things, and it was just hilarious. We just ended up in piles and piles of laughter, so it was really good fun. It was great. So it sort of, the struggle of learning. So during COVID, I know it was a bad period. We eventually got back from, because I went to, obviously, Nancy's from Cuba, so we ended up in Cuba. And we were stuck there during the first lockdown, and eventually got back into Benidorm, and there's no work around. So I thought, I hunted around everywhere. I made up loads of CVs and everything, but I got back in the August. They'd opened up before that in June, and all the jobs that were available had been taken because there wasn't so many jobs around, obviously. They'd all been taken. So I thought, well, I've got to earn some money somehow. So I was helping a guy on Strictly Benidorm Facebook page, and I was doing videos for him, and I thought, I'll do some videos. So I started posting all of that on YouTube, all those early videos, right back from then. And I'd already started a YouTube channel as such before then. And I started posting them up, and then it was got to winter, and it was cold, and I thought, well, I'm not going out. So I started doing. Somebody said to me about TikTok. One of my Spanish friends, he said, "Oh, you can earn a bit of money on TikTok." So I thought, okay. So I started doing TikTok, and by then it was like winter. So I started doing games. I was getting a few people on. I got to live after going to a grow room and everything. I got to live reasonably quick, and I was doing racing games, and I was just doing chats to start with, and then I thought, I'll do some games. I got the computer. I set up it on the TV. And we had snail races, camel races, all sorts of things. People would just write their name down, and I'd put it on the thing, and they'd see their snail with their name running across the screen. And then, I got more and more people said, "Oh, well, I want to be mod, want to be mod." I had so many people want to be mods. I'd already filled up with mods, so I thought, what can I do? So I quickly, I thought, right, we'll have a winners race. All those that win, I'll put them in the final race at the end of the evening. And the winner of that race becomes a mod for the day. I thought that's a way of getting everybody and anybody a chance to be a mod for the day. So that's what I did. And then, of course, once we were allowed out and we were out filming again after the January, I was out more. I was going live outside, and I found that I was getting more people on. I had 550 people on when I was sat outside McDonald's once, and 10 for me. I'd be laughing and joking if I got the 10. And then I'm sat there in front of McDonald's on live, and I had 550 odd people. I thought, I got to, this is the way to go. So I just kept going live and live every day. And I'd got to the corner bar up to see Ashley, because that was round the corner. And he said, you ought to do guide. You ought to be the guide. And it was Ashley who inspired me to call myself the Benidorm TikTok guide. So you've got to thank Ashley for that. And that's what it's been ever since. Well, yes, when Bargain Loving Brits were here filming, someone said to me, oh, they're looking for people. So I went to go to one of the interviews at Abbey Day's bar. And I spoke to a guy there, and he didn't seem very interested. He said, yeah, I'll put it down. I never heard no more. Then I was home sitting there one evening. I had a message on Messenger, so I answered it. It was a phone call. And it was a young lady, and she said, I'm from Bargain Loving Brits. I've just been sat here, a bit bored, been on TikTok. She said, you came up as the Benidorm TikTok guide. And she said, I carried on, and you came up again. And I see, I've done a bit of research and found that you've got quite a big following. Would you be interested in being on the show? So, of course, I thought, yeah, well, after sort of losing the first chance, and I thought, yeah, of course I would. After the Bargain Loving Brits show got me on, I had Layla from the Daily Star in the newspapers talking to me, and they did an article where I ended up, being, said that people traveled 900 miles just to come and see me because they'd seen Benidorm. And also that I got this name, the King of Benidorm. That's what Layla crowned me. She crowned me the King of Benidorm. And through that, it's all good fun. So we've played on that now. If you actually Google King of Benidorm, I'm right at the top. I've made it through this. I just wish that all the rest of the fame would come with it. But because of that, I've become the King of Benidorm. And as I've been going around, there's a few other people have been doing this similar thing to me, showing Benidorm. And, I've become great friends with Louis Greer, the Benidorm fanatic. And, we've become such good friends. He's actually got into the tabloids now, and he's the Duke of Benidorm. We called ourselves a royal family before that, because we just, it's great that there's a few of us around that we're showing all of Benidorm in all our different ways. We've all got different angles to it. None of us are against each other. We're all good friends. We've got some others as well, but it's just a really great, friendly, team that we got. It's like a team we've put together, because nearly all the people that are on my lives watching are on Louis and the others, so everybody's got a good chance to see as much of Benidorm as they want, or as little, they've got a choice. And that's how it's become. We're gradually growing a royal family. Basically, a Spanish royal family.
So where you are now in Benidorm, is that where is this you? Do you think you'll live?
Where I am now in Benidorm, but I can see me living out the rest of my days here. I don't have any plans of going anywhere else, other than Cuba, if, with Nancy, because obviously Nancy coming from Cuba, we've still got the apartment, or Nancy's still got her apartment there. And it's quite near the sea. The weather is better. It might be a retirement plan in the future, but Cuba's would have to improve over there. It's a lovely place to go, but the way of life would have to slightly improve a bit before I could, commit to being there full time. But it's a possible sort of 50-50 maybe when I retire. To all my followers, thank you very much for all the support that you've given me so far, and I hope to continue doing what I'm doing, because I know you will love it. And it's just thank you so much for helping me. You've got me to this. You're the ones that inspire me. You give me that adrenaline to keep going when we've hit those rock bottom times, because we do hit a few rock bottom times when we've had to keep changing accounts. And so, but you guys, you're amazing. thank you for all the support.